What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 5 best builds in Monster Hunter Wilds. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skills and upgrades should you focus on, then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it while in the main campaign, and then finally we will go over the jewels, talismans, your skill rotations, and even 3 different stages of progression for your gear, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you are looking for any of these builds on the website for their stats and more specific things, then click my link in the description or the pinned comment. The setup is known as the Burst Elemental Dual Blades build that focuses on maximizing your elemental damage with the burst, which can be activated easily with the dual blades. We then pair this up with the Stamina Surge and Constitution, and increase the number of dashes that you can do in the demon mode. The Burst Boost set bonus is helpful for prolonging the duration of your burst skill, so it can stay active throughout the fight, while the Master's Touch will solve our sharpness problem. So let's take a look at our equipment. Our main weapon is the Twin Albirats 1. This is a great elemental weapon that provides critical element paired with the Master's Touch to help compensate for the high sharpness loss of the dual blades. With the one javel slot it has, I recommend slotting the crit elemental javel to boost our elemental damage even further. But then also we got 2 more alternatives. So first, the G Veldian Harp 1 is a great alternative that makes use of the Dragon element and boasts 2 javel slots for more skill variety. It also has Focus 2, which allows you to fill up your Demon Gauge even faster. Or then perhaps you can also go with the Ut Nagarpatu 1, which is also a good water element alternative despite negative affinity it has. The Power Prolonger 2 may not be as effective, but the water damage it deals is good enough against monsters with the elemental weakness. And then for a secondary weapon, we are going with the Heavy Bowgun, aka the Hope Cannon 3. This one is able to use Demon and recover ammo to boost damage and provide healing. It is also perfect for dealing with flying monsters and can block attacks. Next up we have our gear, and on the head we're using the G Ebony helmet with the Physique Javel. Then on chest we got the Ray Sandmail. Then on arms we got the G Ebony braces with the Physique Javel. Then on waist we have the Zuvu coil, while on the legs we are going with the Zuvu greaves with 1 more physical gem. And then finally for talisman we got the Surge Charm 1. Our main skills for this build is Constitution, Burst, Razor Sharp, Maximum Might, Stamina Surge, Burst Boost and Master's Touch. This next setup is known as the Vex Burst Sword and Shield build that focuses on the sword and shield power as the elemental weapon by running skills like the Burst, Burst Boost and the Scorcher to augment the fire damage as well as some raw damage from the burst. We also make use of the Weakness exploit to help activate the critical element and the Master's Touch, while with Evade Extender and Constitution handling comfort for evading monster attacks by dodging. So let's take a look at our equipment. Our main weapon is the Albitar's Edge 1 with the Blaze Javel. It has a great stat for its raw damage and elemental attack, as well as 15% affinity that is unmatched in this stage. However, I have one more alternative, which is the Nihil Sword 1, that can work as a replacement with similar stats, specifically against monsters that can resist fire. It does not have the Albitar's Edge affinity, but it does get some raw attack and elemental damage that lets him do some serious DPS. Just don't forget to use the Stream Javel instead of the Blaze to match the Nihil Sword element. And by the way, if it is a water weapon, it can still trigger the Scorcher's damage. And then for our secondary weapon, we're using the Albirat's Bow 1. This addition of the stamina management with Constitution allows the bow to make good use of our build, and this bow will share the same affinity and elemental values of our Albitar's Edge, which makes this a good choice for the range damage. Next we have gear, and for the head we are going with the Ja Ratalus helm. Then for chest we got the G Ebony mail with the Physique Javel. Then for arms we got the G Ratalus braces with the Physique Javel as well. Then for waist we got the G Ebony coil, while for legs we got the G Ratalus greaves with 1 more Physique Javel. And then finally for talisman we are using the Evasion Charm 1. Our main skills for this build is Constitution, Bleeding Resistance, Scorcher, Weakness Exploit, Burst, Burst Boost and the Master's Touch. The setup is known as the Critical Weakness Longsword build. In combat, the Longsword players will benefit from destroying monster wounds, as they will gain level in the Spirit Gauge every time they do so. And this is where the Weakness exploit enters. This skill increases affinity of the attacks that hit weak points with addition to the bonus affinity to the monster wounds. This perfectly will synergize with a critical jaw on the weapon, which further increases the Longsword's affinity. Even though the Flayer makes it easier to wound monsters, we will leave this at level 1 due to the fact that wounding monsters is relatively easy with the longsword. Then the evade window is inserted into the build to extend the iframes and the slash and the spirit slash. And then the quick seed is a staple of our setup, as it will enable us to use the special seed quickly. Our main goal is to maximize the monster wounds with this build, as we can dish out some serious damage while leveling up our spirit gauge. So let's take a look at our equipment. Our main weapon is the Iron Katana 2 with the Draw Javel, however I have two more alternatives. So first we got the Bone Shootle 3, which offers the player a very good alternative to the Iron Katana 2. This weapon has a higher base damage along with the skills like the attack boost and the focus. However, attack boost is a hard skill to focus on at this point of the game, and focus can be swapped out for another skill that fits the longsword better. Additionally, its low sharpness makes the weapon lose some damage relatively quickly. Or then we also got the Dosha Fate Cleaver 2. This weapon possesses the highest attack power among all the 4 rarity longswords. Her high damage is further boosted by its skill Punishing Jaw, which makes the sword one of the more attractive options. Additionally, this longsword is unique as it offers defense. However, the main downside of this weapon is its negative affinity and its relatively low sharpness. And then for our secondary weapon, we're using the Greatsword, aka the Buster Sword 2 with also the Jaw Javel. This offers the critical jaw which complements the armor skills very well. If we find ourselves in a situation when the monster is staggered and he has no spirit gauge, then we can switch to this and it may serve as a substitute to our main one. Next we have gear. On our head we are wearing the G Retalus helm. Then on chest we have the G Arkweld mail. Then on arms we have the G Retalus wambraces with the C Javel. Then on waist we got the Hirabami coil. While on legs we have the G Retalus greaves with the C Javel. And finally for talisman we got the Evasion Charm 1. Our main skills for this build is Weakness Exploit, Quick Seed, Critical Jaw, Evade Window and Intimidator. Then this next setup is known as the Vex Flayer Hammer build that takes advantage of the newly reworked Weakness Exploit by giving us a huge affinity bonus to completely negate the negative affinity of the G Veldian Malus while increasing our damage on the wounded parts. With the help of the Flayer, you will have better uptime on its increased damage. Furthermore, since the hammer has a high base damage from its focus strike, so the build also takes advantage of the Park Break to utilize the monster wounds even more. So let's take a look at our equipment. Our main weapon is the G Veldian Malleus 1, with 1 focus javel and 1 handicraft javel. As you enter higher ranks, having a build that is centered around the G Veldian Malleus is super OP, because it has massive raw damage and access to focus level 2, which makes it a great hammer for general use, especially when you get the focus javel early on. Additionally, most monsters will not have a high resistance to the dragon element, so we will get an overall damage boost. But then also we got 2 more alternatives. If you prefer dealing more damage over the focus level 2 utility, then the Albirad's Bludgeon 1 would be the better option. Stacking as much affinity to utilize the critical element will give it a slight edge over the Veldian Malleus. Furthermore, it has a Master Touch, allowing your sharpness to stay stable. Although the additional fire damage can be neutralized if a monster is resistant to it, which can make our higher damage get reduced. Not only that, but you must also hone in on the Weakness Exploit to make full use of it. Or then also we got the Nihil Hammer 1, which is another solid alternative since it has water element coverage while still having the same amount of focus and the higher green sharpness. The damage difference, assuming that a monster is not resistant to the water, is just a little bit lower than the previous option. Next we have gear. On our head we're using the G Arkweld helm with a physique javel. Then on chest we got the Ayarakana mail. Then on arms we got the G Retalus wambraces with the physique javel. Then on waist we got the G Deshaguma coil. Then on legs we got the G Retalus greaves with the physique javel. And finally on talisman we got the Marathon Charm 1. Our main skills for this build is Constitution, Weakness Exploit, Marathon Runner, Heroics, Scorcher, Focus, Flyer and the Park Breaker. Then this next setup is known as the Flay Decimator Greatsword build, that revolves around the synergy between the Weakness Exploit and the new armor skill Flayer. Weakness Exploit increases your affinity whenever you attack a monster weak spot, and is further increased if that weak spot has a wound. This is where the Flayer will come in, as it makes it easier to inflict wounds while also dealing additional raw damage. The G Arkweld armor set bonus skill, the Decimator, will heal you whenever you break wounds, allowing you to recover HP without having to use items for after sheathing your weapon. This keeps you in the fight for longer, allowing you to deal more damage to the monster. Additionally, the Scorcher, the set bonus skill from the G Retalus armor, will give you a chance to deal additional fire damage whenever you land an attack. And then the final piece of this build is the focus from the G Valiance 1, and this will let you charge up your charge attacks, including the powerful True Charge Slash. This allows you to dish out high amount of damage in the shorter period of time. And then finally, our maximum might will provide enough affinity to cancel out the negative affinity of the G Valiant Gladius 1, allowing you to enjoy the effects of the weakness exploit to its maximum potential. So let's take a look at our equipment. Our main weapon is the G Valiant Gladius with the Focus Javel and the Handicraft Javel. However, we get two more alternatives. First, we have the Albirat Wing 1. His critical element skill will allow your elemental damage to crit, which increases our total damage output. The only downside is that you have to sacrifice focus, leading to slower overall combos, but you can mitigate this by equipping a Focus Javel on the weapon. Or then the second option is the Nihil Greatsword 1. He has critical jaw too, which makes it a good weapon for a hit and run playstyle. However, you may have a hard time creating wounds with this gameplay, which is something that our build really relies on. But thanks to this weapon's green sharpness, you can opt to equip a Focus Javel instead of a Handicraft Javel, so that you can charge your critical jaw attack faster. Then also for our second weapon, we're using the Bone Shooter 3 with the Artillery Javel. This is a strong heavy bowgun with the access to level 2 spread and the cluster ammo, as well as the flaming ammo. It has Guard 2 and Attack Boost 1, giving you both defensive and offensive capabilities. Then on our head we got the G Arcveld Helm with a Physique Javel. Then for chest we got the G Arcveld Mail. Then on arms we're using the G Retalius Vambraces with the Physique Javel. Then for waist we have the Zu Vu Coil. Then for legs we got the G Retalius Greaves with the Physique Javel. And then finally for our talisman we're using the Chain Blade Charm 1. Our main skills for this build is Flare, Weakness Exploit, Decimator, Scorcher, Focus and the Maximum Might. So let me know what you think about these builds in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.